Hi, this is part one of our ITSLearning admin videos. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a little walk through how to get new learners onto the system, all the setup required for tutors, all the communication, sending out emails, just getting everything set up. So I'm just going to swap over to my screen. So what we've got here is a set of learners that have been sent through to me from Carmel. So these are a new class she wants set up. And she's pre-filled all this for me, so we don't need all these things to be in the Excel file. Maybe we'll look at later changing this around. What she's done, she's told me already, this is the course title, this is the course type. The course type we'll be putting ourselves, but it's handy to have it already. Things we really need though, we need emails, we need the course code, we need the first name, last name. That's what we're going to use. What I've done as well is I've resaved this file, which is very important, as a CSV file. So I've gone through, gone save as, and I've resaved as a CSV, comma delimited. So that's the format that ITSLearning expects. It's very similar to a lot of other programs. So I've logged in my admin account, and I've gone straight through to the admin section of ITSLearning. And under here you can see we've got user and access rights. So manage user accounts, passwords, access rights, and more, which is where we want to be. So clicking into there, from here we can search for people, we can check people's possible actions, we can send emails, but for the moment we're going to hit this import users from file. So the first thing to do is drop the file in and hit the little clippy, browse to the file, and I'm going to browse to the one I pre-saved. So I've got the, show you that, Microsoft Excel, comma separated values file. You can see the original Excel one there, it's much larger. Okay, so we've selected that file. The other thing we need to change here, and you'll know you haven't changed it properly because on the next page everything will look a bit weird on the imports. We need to tell it that the separator character is a comma. So all I've done is just selected what was in there, which is a semicolon, and I've put a comma into that box. And that just tells ITSLearning to expect a piece of information, then a comma, another piece of information, then a comma. Let's hit next. And we've got all the things we need to go through. Luckily, we don't have to do all of this each time. All we need to do is work through sort of one by one. So, profile, they're all students, so that's nice and straightforward. And you can double check this from the list she sent. Looks at all she sent as students. Sometimes tutors will send through non-student ones, so I've had a few with LSAs added into there. Sort of not sure yet what's the easiest thing to do really, is whether you want to import the role directly in here, which is an option, so you could actually import the role as what's been put in, or whether you do those separately. I've done them separately up till now. So we're going to carry on. So student, first name is the first name field, so what I'm doing is just matching it to that header row. If there was no header row in here, this would just come up as one of the examples. So username we're going to generate, so it's going to make a username based on their first name and last name. Password, it's going to make up one for us as well, which is great. Email address is an email, and you can see as well there's a role as a selectable thing. We don't need anything about servers, passwords, date of birth, phone, all those things we don't need. Right down to synchronization key, we do need synchronization key, and that's the email. So all that does is that tells ITSLearning that each unique learner is identified by their email. So if we change someone's name, let's say someone's surname changes, but the email stays the same, it knows that that's the same person. It will just update their details rather than create a second person. Obviously there's other ways of doing it. You could create a code per learner, but it's just easier just to use the email for most things. Okay, so roles learner, and then what we need to do is find the hierarchy. So this is where does it sit inside our nested group of courses. So all we do is hit find hierarchy, and we're going to drill down to where we want the learners to be. So by default everything's under Community Learning West, and then that's split into Bristol ACL, North Somerset, and for the moment we've got this ITSLearning, which is like a training package. So this is a Bristol course. We click on Bristol. Then we click on 2020. So what we'll be doing obviously is when we've got into it and we start the new academic year, we'll be changing to 2021. And just to make it slightly easier for us to archive courses by having it split by year. So 2020, and we'll scroll down. You can see Carmel selected non-accredited employability. So we're going to drop it into there. And we'll select Carmel. So the way we've got it at the moment is all of a tutor's courses are under their name. And that's primarily to make it easier for the tutors to find their courses. It also means we can have LSAs and support workers and development workers more easily attached to a tutor rather than to go in per course or by subject area. So we're going to leave it there. We can see now we've got Community Learning West, Bristol, 2020, and then the area, and then the name of the tutor. Here are other courses she's got. So what we're going to do is hit choose on this top line. So we're choosing that path as where to store this course. Now obviously what we need now is to actually put in the final bit, which is the actual course code. So you can have all these different sub-levels. So equally, what we could do in the future is have the tutor choose all those sub-levels in advance, and we can import all those sub-levels in. So it could be Bristol 2020, non-accredited employability, and so on. You know, Carmel and the course code. That's probably more effort than it's worth. So all we're going to do is pick on here and have course code. So it's going to pull in that full hierarchy and then add the course code onto the end of it. So import settings, import first line in file. It always seems to do that anyway, regardless, which is strange. Do not overwrite fields that already have a value. Do not create new users for unmatched users and sync. We don't need any of those at the moment. So just hit next. And what it does is it shows you a preview. I presume this is going to get completely hideous to look at in the future. But if we whiz down here, you can see the new line, the little new in parentheses at the end. So there are EPPE 14006 to match those other two, and you can see that's the code that Carmel's got for this course. So I can hit next, and it says number of lines in files that contain errors. I presume that is the title line because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then one more. So number of lines in file that can be imported is 7. So it's going to import those 7 lines. Number of lines in file can be synchronized 0. That confused me the first time. That just means if you're updating somebody, which might happen if you're adding a second list. So say you've imported a whole bunch of learners onto a course, and then you've had an updated list come through from the tutor. If you then add that existing list on, some of those are going to be synchronized because you've already done them. Hit finish. Do you want to start importing? May take several minutes. Please wait for the results. And then we're going to get another big long thing in there. Actually what it's done is, that's the other thing it does. So number of new users 7, number of updates done, number of users not imported. You can see error messages. Contain empty synchronization fields line 9. So line 9 is empty. So it hasn't imported that first line. What it's done is it's tried to import this blank line, I presume because there was a trailing comma or something it's got confused by, which is fine. Doesn't matter, it hasn't done anything, not imported it. So that is all those students imported. So you can see that we're in Carmel's hierarchy. This is all of Carmel's students. It's going to be much easier for us. We just drill down quickly, hit find hierarchy, and go all the way back through 2020, unaccredited, Carmel, and this time we can choose the new course, so 14006, and then hit search here. That's going to drill down just to the course we've just done. And you can see we've got the same people here. Obviously these are in alphabetical order, these aren't. We've got 7 new people. So what we need to do now is we're going to select that whole group, and we're going to send email to user with new login details and perform operation on all. So all 7 will get an email from us explaining how to log into the system. So do you want to send a welcome message to these users via email? The password will be changed. Yep, that's fine. Obviously from here as well is where we can do things like editing their password, printing password, that sort of thing. edit the user, change stuff, remove them. So they're now on the system and ready to go. They can get into the course. So for Carmel, she's now got a separate piece of work to do, which is she can now go into her course, into participants, and then she can go to hierarchy synchronization, and she could add that hierarchy in. So she would just go in, find it exactly the same way, and that would then pull all those students into her class. Because that's the first section of the work. Okay, so this is part 2. What we're going to look at now is getting the ILPs set up for the tutor. So if we go to supervisors, this chooses who is responsible for supervising which students. And supervising basically means they get the EILP section at the top of their login area, so they can actually choose to go in and make comments on students. This doesn't actually assign ILPs to students, this is just purely to allow the tutors to be able to have some control over it. So we can search for people here, so I could type in Carmel, but I can see at the bottom of the list regardless. So you can see she's already an EILP admin, so she's already been added to this. If she wasn't, I could go to this button here, hit add, and again I'd have to find the tutor, click on them, hit OK, but you know, it says she was added already, so that needs to get it onto the system. And you can see already she's got some hierarchies here, and she's already managing 17 students. So I'm going to click on her name. No, I'm not. I always do that. Click on edit, and that shows me what she's currently managing. Now, there's nothing to stop you from having a hierarchy which just ends in her name. So that means all the students, all the classes that she has under ICT, she has control over. What I prefer to do though is actually drill down each time directly into the course code, partly so you know it's been done, so you know definitely that's the group of students, but also it's much better for Carmel. If I can show you that actually, if I go to EILP. Yeah, so what would happen, I haven't gotten it at the moment, but Carmel would have either something here which just says Carmel and then all of her students, which makes things really difficult, or she'd have all her course codes here. And obviously it's much easier then if she knows the course code, she can click on the course code, see the 7 students and update them, because you know they're going to work by group rather than everyone's names. So all we're going to do now is hit add hierarchy and do all the same stuff again. I'm afraid there's a lot of this repeated clicking in ITSLearning. It doesn't take very long, but it is a bit of a pain. And choose EPP 14006 again. You can see it's been added onto the bottom, and then somewhere in there it's added, you can see one couple there, added those students into that list. So we're very nearly done. Okay, so we're back in the supervisors menu, and this time I'm going to find myself. So just find your accounts, you've got your own accounts in the system. I'm going to click on the name again because I've got a habit of doing that. Hit edit, and I'm going to add exactly the same hierarchy under myself. So we may change this in the future, the way this works, but for the moment I'm going to choose the same hierarchy, get the students on there, and then I'm going to go up to my EILP section at the top. It's individual learning plans, and now you can see I've just as Carmel would, I've got that group here. And so what I can do is select them all, and I can give them a plan, and I'm going to say individual learning plan. So there's 2 different templates. One is for the session, so it's individual ILP that they would fill out just for that session. It's a much better way of working, and that might be what we do when the tutors really get a hang of the system, but they've got so many new things to learn, it's probably a bit unfair to try and dump this on them as well. So what we've got is course name template, which we will assign for them. So the course name template is one big long ILP for the whole course. So we've done that, they've got a start date in there, we're not going to put an end date in, and we'll hit create, and we can make that visible as well, but we won't. So that's what the tutor would do now, that's the bit they would be left with. So they would go into the ILPs, they can choose to make that visible, so after they've gone through things, and they can do midterm reviews and things. So that is all we need to do. We're just going to go back and go into my account, hit the right button for a change, and I'm going to remove that hierarchy so I don't see those students anymore. So a little bit of a faff there at the end. We probably will be looking to move that away from admin at some point. It's worth including here now anyway. So that's getting students onto the system. So it's not a difficult process, and it's not a long process particularly, but it does require you to be sort of very aware of what you're doing. There's lots of ways you can make mistakes in there. So there we go.